At 18, I thought I knew what love was. That summer, beneath the golden sunsets and whispered promises, I met Lillian, the girl who changed everything. We were inseparable, lost in the kind of love that feels like forever. But forever has a way of slipping through your fingers. She moved away, leaving only a small folded note in my hand. I will always love you. Decades passed, life moved on, and I buried our story deep within my heart. Until one day, in the most unexpected place, I heard a familiar voice. You're still standing in my light, Henry. 70 years later, love found its way back. And the truth I had hidden for so long would shock everyone. The old leather-bound journal sat on my desk, its pages yellowed with age, edges frayed from decades of being opened and closed. My hands trembled as I traced my fingers over the cover. It had been 70 years since I first put pen to paper, writing about a love so pure, so deep, that time itself had not been able to erase it. I had never spoken of it before. Not to my children, not to my grandchildren, not even to my late wife. But as the years passed, the weight of the untold truth grew heavier, pressing against my chest like an anchor, dragging me back to the past. And so, on this quiet afternoon, with nothing but the ticking clock and the soft hum of the wind outside my window, I decided it was time. Time to share the love story that had shaped me, the one that had changed me forever, the one that no one knew about. It was 1953, the summer of my 18th year. I was young, reckless, and foolishly optimistic. The world was vast, full of adventure, and I believed I had all the time in the world to do everything I dreamed of. My town was small, the kind of place where everyone knew each other's business before they even did it themselves. But that summer, I met her, Lillian. She had moved into town with her family from a few states away, her father taking up a job at the local post office. She was different from the other girls, with her sharp wit and an almost defiant way of carrying herself. While the other girls giggled and batted their eyelashes, Lillian would challenge me, pushing me to think beyond my small-town world. I still remember the first time I saw her. She was sitting under the big oak tree in the park, sketching something in a notebook. The sun caught in her dark hair, making it shimmer like something out of a dream. I was drawn to her immediately, something about her presence pulling me in. You just gonna stand there staring, or are you gonna introduce yourself? She had asked without looking up. I chuckled, feeling caught. Name's Henry, I said. She finally looked up at me, her eyes twinkling with mischief. Lillian. And you're standing in my light, Henry. That was how it started. That summer was ours. We spent long evenings talking about everything and nothing. She taught me about poetry, about music I had never heard before, about the world beyond our little town. And I taught her how to ride a bike, how to skip stones just right across the lake, how to find the best peach trees in town. We were inseparable, lost in the kind of young love that feels like it will last forever. But forever is a funny thing. Her father got a better job offer in another state, and just like that, our perfect little world came crashing down. We tried to make promises, letters, phone calls, visits, but deep down, we both knew what distance did to love. Still, on the night before she left, we met at our usual spot by the lake, beneath the stars that had watched over us all summer. She took my hand in hers, pressing something into my palm, a small folded note. "Don't open it until I'm gone," she whispered. I didn't argue. I just held her close, memorizing every detail of her, the way she smelled like wildflowers, the way her breath hitched when she was holding back tears, the way her fingers trembled as they clung to mine. The next morning, she was gone. I sat under that oak tree and unfolded the note. 5 words were scrawled in her delicate handwriting. I will always love you. I kept that note for years, tucked away in the pages of my journal as I tried to move on. I married a wonderful woman, had children, built a life. I loved my wife deeply, and I never strayed. But some nights, When the world was quiet and the memories crept in, I would find myself wondering about Lillian, where she was, if she was happy, if she still thought of me. Decades passed. My wife passed. My children grew, had families of their own. And then one day, life surprised me. It was at a cafe, a small one in a town I had never visited before. I had taken a spontaneous trip, needing to escape the routine of my quiet life for a bit. I was sipping my coffee when I heard a voice I hadn't heard in 70 years. "You're still standing in my light, Henry." I turned, and there she was, Lillian. Time had touched her, just as it had me. Her hair was grey now, her face lined with years of laughter and sorrow. But her eyes, they were still the same, still full of that same spark that had captivated me all those years ago. We sat together for hours, catching up on a lifetime we had missed. She had never married, had never found someone who made her feel the way I did. She had spent her years traveling, painting, living in a way I had only ever dreamed of. And when she smiled at me, I realized something. Though time had passed, though we had lived separate lives, that love we shared had never truly faded. It had only been waiting, quiet and patient, for this moment. We spent the next few years together, making up for lost time. It was different now, slower, softer, but no less real. We weren't young anymore, but love didn't care about that. Now, as I sit here, pen in hand, I realize the truth I had kept hidden for so long wasn't just about the love I had lost. It was about the love I had found again. Because sometimes life gives us second chances. And sometimes the greatest love stories aren't the ones that happen when we're young, but the ones that stand the test of time. As he sat on the park bench, watching the golden hues of the sunset paint the sky, he felt the weight of the years that had passed. The world had changed, people had come and gone, but there was one thing that time had never been able to erase: his love for her. He remembered the way her laughter used to fill the room, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about her dreams, and the way she made even the simplest moments feel special. They were young then, reckless, caught in the whirlwind of life. But circumstances, misunderstandings, and the pressures of the world had pulled them apart. Now, decades later, fate had brought them back together. And as she sat beside him, her hand slipping gently into his, he realized something profound. Love wasn't just about grand gestures or fiery passion. It was about endurance. It was about finding each other again, after all the storms, and choosing to hold on. With a deep breath, he turned to her, smiling as their fingers intertwined. "I guess some stories don't have endings," he whispered. She smiled back. "No, they just keep going. And Lillian, my first love, would be my last."